whole world was against us. With us dead, everyone was sure that things would go back to the way they were before.
There's one leader of the party that the player can control during battle, and towards the beginning of the game, the story will dictate which character will be the leader, so you can't control that at first, but as you progress in the game, you'll be able to choose which character you want to control. In the Gambit system in Final Fantasy XII, you set the actions of your party members before you went into battle. But for Final Fantasy XIII, we have a new system about which we can't talk about in too much detail, but you can actually set the commands for your AI within the battle. The Gestalt mode is actually basically a combination act between the character and their summon. So that's a theme that's really important for the summon system in this game, and for that reason there's only going to be one summon per character. As for the Gestalt mode, you can pretty much, or summoning in general, you can call upon that at any point in battle, but depending on what timing you decide to use those modes, the duration of that mode will change. So there's a lot of strategizing on the part of the player that has to take place. So, as you mentioned, the Gestalt mode is definitely something that's really similar to the limit breaks from the previous Final Fantasies, but how it's going to be different or similar with other characters, we can't really go into detail about that at this point. So as I mentioned earlier, the whole concept of this summon system is that there's going to be a combination act between the player and the summon, and they're really going to be fighting as one during the Gestalt mode. So it is technically one summon per character throughout the game, but as you saw, Shiva was summoned as a sister summon. There were two of them, and so a lot of the summons that have appeared in the past Final Fantasy series will be reimagined and show up in different forms.
どれだけ今回のバトルっていうのは、
For the first part of your question about the ranking system, that's really a rank of, or just like a assessment of how, not just if you were able to defeat everybody, but how well you were able to go through that battle. So actually there's not that much detail that they can talk about at this moment, but since it is a ranking of how well a battle is performed versus how well it isn't, I guess, how poorly it was performed, that difference is going to be a significant element in what kind of findings the player will have ultimately throughout the game.
例えば FF10 でスフィア版
Final Fantasy X had the sphere grid, and then 12 had the license board, and so 13 will have a unique ranking or level system to it, as did the previous Final Fantasies.
いや、特に7に対する意図的な部分
There was no intentional or intention to make it similar to Final Fantasy VII, so it wasn't a direct homage or anything, but just trying to create a trial demo version that would have a lot of trying to summarize a lot of the aspects of the game and putting it into one short playable demo. It just happened to turn out that way, to take in the best elements of Final Fantasy.
Cocoon is caught in the grip of a pulse-born terror. These pulse l'Cie threaten our very way of life. They must be eliminated. Over and out.
今、日本版と
So the overall completion percentage of both the Japanese and localized version combined is 60% right now. We had mentioned before that we were going to complete the Japanese version and then start the localization process. But obviously, as you saw, there was the English version trailer, and so the localized version is already being started. The voice recordings actually just started really taking place, and they're taking place at Universal City right now. So it's definitely moving along.
Just say it! Any l'Cie! Anyone who might even become one! They all ought to be wiped off Cocoon.
The only way of completing the focus to take out the post l'Cie.
Do you have any plan to include
multiple language tracks in either the Japanese or English releases of Final Fantasy 13.
ノーノーって言い切っちゃっていいのか結構今日何回も聞かれたんです
Actually, that was a question that was asked in past interview sessions today too, but is it something that a lot of people are wanting to have included in overseas versions?
To be honest, I think there is this part of the consumer base that, not to get it earlier, but prefers the game in its native language with the subtitle presentation. You see that in anime, like a lot of North American fans who watch anime play Japanese games, they like that. So in that regard, I think there is a demand for it. You see it in other JRPGs as well.
考えておきます
He'll consider it.
Hey, where you going?
Date with the Fal'Cie.
What? You gonna ask it for help?
I'm not just gonna stand here and wait around!
What?
Lightning.